as we're going live with the bans now. First one up, and it's going to be a Maverick ban getting knocked out here by the members of SSG. Hibana still in play, so hatchwork should be doable, but accessing areas like the attic on the upstairs hold going to be a little bit trickier now. And as well, clearing utility going to get even more complex because Flores has just been taken out by DZ.
Yeah, and SSG will be starting things off on defense as DarkZero had the last map ban, so they'll be starting on the stronger side here. Although for Spacestation, it's a little weird for their Oregon, especially as they actually have the same win rate on both sides of the coin. So looks like they should hopefully, at least by the numbers, be successful there today. The bans are now in. We've gotten Valkyrie and Kaid removed on the defense, and not only Maverick, but also Flores for the offense. So that means that Thatcher's going to be open and able to get a hold of all of these hatches, although the play around those aren't going to be as strong with the Kaid now removed.
So operators have been banned out, and we are heading into our first defense, exactly where you'd expect it to go as well for this type of a team. SSG going right for their basement hold. Not necessarily any tricky operators coming in for the attacking side to throw this off just as of yet, but keep in mind, of course, we have attacker repick in play now, so plenty of that can be changing, as we're already seeing with Canadian switching over from a Lion to a Twitch, and it would certainly not be surprising we saw a few more of these end up switching away as well, such as to bring in a Ying or something similar, depending on how DZ wants to play this.
No, absolutely not, and Twitch is going to work extremely well in this situation because if Canadian's precise with those drones, he's going to have the ability to get rid of quite a few layers of SSG's defensive setup, especially with Folds and Rampy working their way in. If you're able to delete those as well as a few of those Razor Blooms from Skies, it could be big boon for your offense. So we'll have to see how things are going to work fresh out of the gates here, as Space Station are going to be on some semblance of a roam. Yes, Fultz is going to stick around on this top floor. You wouldn't exactly expect it out of a Wamai, just given the circumstances of his utility, but we'll have to see how it works.
He's got a decent matrix of support below him, so he's not necessarily out on his own entirely. If he takes a fight on the second floor, obviously that's going to be the case, but any players that want to crunch on him from down below are going to have to work their way past Rampy or another player, as we're seeing Rampy already knocking out the first drone. Panba is currently looping around, though, going to try to isolate his position, but it looks like he'll fall back further down the hallway before potentially getting spotted. And he's aware of the potential for a second drone to follow up his position anyway, but still forced back into the depths of security, where you probably heard the blasting of the wall there, as I believe we did end up seeing Fultz fall back from his own second floor position and regroup with his teammate here, and certainly doing so now even further, as they're going to fall straight up into the basement.
Well, Fultz still has both of his impacts, so I think this is preemptive from here, from SSG here, as they already had the kitchen hatch and everything else open, and it was just an initial roam game to see if they could potentially get some damage onto DarkZero or get some drones, but they've only really been successful in that department. They've gotten rid of 2 of Hyper's drones, but that's just about it. DarkZero now have map control, and they'll have the ability to actually get onto these hatches now, although SSG has opened up a couple of them for them already.
SSG continuing to wait out the timer here. It hasn't been forced into anything just yet due to the slow movement from DarkZero, who similarly has opened up a few hatches but has not made much effort in terms of transitioning down to that basement floor. Still a few seconds away from getting to that anyway. As you can see, there's still a few utility pieces that need to be set up. Panba putting Overwatch there with the air jab over on the laundry stairs, and a few other things being lined up. You'll have noted too, Canadian did not end up locking in that Twitch, obviously, at this point, so they do have the line utility to assault onto the site with, and it's looking like they're going to try to swarm into the basement, but Houghton already peeked out. The drone call either not made or not made clear enough, as he's able to still take out a player and drop the case in the open. Houghton with full intel on this. No! Despite the nade bleeding through as well, he's able to negotiate 2 more kills and keep himself alive. It's down to just Hyper and Canadian now.
His reposition saved him from the splash damage from the frag grenade somehow, and now DarkZero, they don't have the manpower to actually get onto site. Canadian has to try and find something. He swings through down low, but so many angles to worry about, and Skies will pick him up. Now it's just Hyper remaining, and hopefully for him, he can potentially get a kill and stop this SSG flawless round. 2 ADSs will go away, and now Hyper with freezer control, at least for the moment. He'll swing through, potentially someone to swing his hallway soon enough. LMG in hand, plenty of bullets to deal with the amount of bodies that he has ahead of him, but SSG, they're just going to sit back and await his arrival. Really don't need to get too active in this situation. It's really Hyper that has to do something here, although he consistently takes damage bouncing between all of these separate angles. Finally, he'll work up Freezer. Won't be able to find the niche little angle in the corner, but finally Hot and Cold will double back. He'll win out his initial fight, but with the timer dwindling down low, that's going to be it. Spacestation gaming with practically a flawless one.
Yeah, just stat padding at that point in the final portion of the round, trying to win out the 1v5 was pretty much impossible to properly pull off there, so SSG had it locked down pretty much from when we see this play being made by Houghton. Like you said, that clutch little reposition where he slides out to the left after getting the initial kill of those two, and he knew he was going to be safe because this third player, technically, was stacked behind that one. That's when he decides to shift away from the nade. I think prior to that, he was kind of okay taking the trade if he went down because he very likely could have taken 3 people with him, so that would have been perfectly fine, but was even able to scooch out of the way after getting that second kill and avoid his own death. So masterfully played there by Houghton.
Very well done from Houghton, but also kind of a question mark as to what DarkZero's strategy was there, because they get the drone in initially, but everyone just swings the shielder, which is not necessarily the way that you want to handle that situation. If anything, the frag grenade should have been the first thing to come out to explode the shield, but it wasn't even cooked properly when it happened because they got so surprised by Houghton swinging them off of that. So a little bit of a missed time on the info, just really not synergized inside of that situation that just gave SSG way too much.
DZ possibly trying to make their play a little more sporadic, a little less easy to read for SSG, so that could explain why they tried to go for it, and maybe again the drone just not having advanced through there previously. They didn't have the proper intel to play off of that and just ran face first into the setup without having an opportunity to correct it because they were following their drone so closely behind. Either way, it's in the past now for DarkZero, and they're worried about round number 2 here. SSG has of course shifted to their upstairs hold. We now have Rampy getting in the way of this initial clear over here towards the small tower, but he's very quickly going to have to give up from that position, as it's going to be overwhelmed by the large majority of DZ's roster.
Yeah, Rampy not having to pick up too much weight just yet, especially off of the back of Hot and Cold's efforts from that previous round, although Stage 1 of 2022 has not been the best for him. The Stage 3 of last year, things were pretty crazy for him. I just had my notes backwards a little bit there initially, so apologies about that, folks. But either way, his last year's stage was actually so very incredible. A 1.48 inside of Stage 3 for 2021, but for Stage 1 of 2022, he's currently at a 0.96. He's kind of fallen off a cliff in that sense. A KPR of a 1.17 last stage, but for this one, a 0.65. So he just hasn't been able to find his mark in the same way, but that could also be due to the fact that SSG has gone through some role changes. Could be, just a difference in calling between Bosco and Skies as well. And, if he makes good on his promise here today, then it really doesn't mean all that much at the end.
See Rampy patiently waiting for this lurk to come through inside of the basement. Not going to be able to isolate out the position of either player just yet. But Canadian potentially hearing the movement of Rampy around the corner here. Rampy, regardless of the situation, though, is going to have to pretty quickly fall back here to the timing starting to get a bit low. You'll note, of course, plenty of support is available for him upstairs, so he's not necessarily in a dire situation, despite the fact that DarkZero have considerable map control surrounding him. Second teammate has just made his descent. This is where they might potentially make a mistake here, as Canadian possibly not expecting, or rather, the members of SSG not expecting Canadian to be in this position in Laundry still so late into the round, but regardless, neither player is able to negotiate anything serious against each other here, as they're still just building up positioning. The members of SSG are waiting for their late pinch potential to show up. You can see actually a large presence of SSG still not in the site, so DZ does have a pretty clean execute through the big window route if they want to go that way. Canadian has been able to work himself over towards Laundry stairs, but he misses this player holding just outside of Connector, taking some damage from it. Thankfully, the adrenal surges are available, gets him boosted up right quick, and now Houghton has been down on the ground, but Skies gets a pretty much immediate response, taking out a member of DZ. However, they continue to storm into the site, and a flurry of kills goes their way, leaving just Rampy and Fultz in this situation, and now just Rampy with the elimination of Fultz. He's got a 1v3. It would be a successful 1v4 for him if he could close it out, but the case now down on the ground, the timer ticking in the opposite direction. Rampy very quickly running out of positioning, let alone health to play with here as well.
All out assault from DarkZero, and it'll go off without a hitch. The only frag coming through past what we saw in the post plant there for SSG was Sky's rat spot inside of Trophy, but everything had already been done for DC's initial success. So able to get into the site, get the plant down, and find the dub. So now we're tied up here going into round 3. Kitchen and Dining Hall set up for SSG. Up next, not trusting the top floor defense yet again, as they have to find a successful site here. They have a couple of different options, but just not seemingly wanting to go to the top floor.
Gonna go for the one that's a little bit more contained here in terms of the proximity to each other. You have the meeting room option as well, but SSG choosing not to go for that. It's played very different stylistically. This one you can kind of keep the team together as a unit a lot more, but at the same time, does have the double-edged sword. If DarkZero take control, it's nearly impossible to retake this site, even with the changes that were made to it on the most recent update to this map. You can see for DZ, a couple more repicks going to come in. These are mainly just comfort changes, aren't going to have a huge impact on the round just yet. For instance, Eclipse is changing his hard breach operator. Hyper is going to ditch the Fink, which means well, slightly less nades, but it'll be made up partially by what Zofia is bringing to the table. An interesting one there for a second for Canadian, but it's been depicked. And of course, we are going to still see Thatcher come in for Panba.
Gonna have the Thatcher come in, gonna have the Nomad come in from Canadian, so they'll be able to shut down the Showers Hall, and these EMPs will make access so easy for them in this round. But we might have some early aggression here. Rampy's gonna crawl all the way up, and actually, fortunately for him, he is gonna get tagged up, but more than likely DZ not knowing that he was actually there. They were simply just trying to break the window, and Rampy just so happened to be in the crossfire. So might have an opportunity here to actually pick up some frags that are unbeknownst to ZZ, but hopefully the drone will come in soon, and if it does, could be very helpful. Actually, it looks like they did see him through that window break, so could be taking some time here to clear out T3. How much time can Rampy possibly waste, though? Oh, well, that's awkward.
Thankfully, he doesn't have to do too much to waste that time, as he pretty much just has to sit in a position where he knows he's not going to get peeked from. And as long as he does that, and as long as DarkZero continue to throw players his direction, he'll succeed in wasting out the time. Problem is, though, DarkZero have a lot committed, as you can see here, to their top clear as well, so they're still focused on getting into this site, while more so just keeping an eye on the position of that other member of SSG.
A little bit easier said than done when playing the T3 position. Sometimes things can be pretty risky, especially from some of those downward angles that you can possibly run into. But as of right now, SSG's strategy has worked. They've wasted so much time. It's quiet across the map. DarkZero's trying their best to drone out and see where they can possibly enter from. It's finally worked its way back towards a shower side's take here, with NJR and Eclipse currently poised to start working their way in. But where's the remainder of the DarkZero push? That's the real question. Canadian more than likely going to be setting some air jabs up in the hallway, but be looking for that, you know, Veil and Dagger. Where is DarkZero potentially going to try and position the rest of these members? They've already gotten their initial frag now, as Bosco's going to falter. Kind of an awkward situation there for both of these teams, but they still have to work through quite a bit of setup here.
Quite a bit of time still remaining for DarkZero to make their play, but it's been a relatively inactive round, aside from trying to open up whatever angles they might have been given access to. NJR now waiting for his first peek at what would be waiting on the inside of locker room. Now we're going to see that popped open in the next few seconds. Rampy as well, keeping a close watch on the bottom white stairs window here. Being careful in the event that DarkZero try to use that to get a quick pinch going. So far, the DarkZero only with that upstairs control. Hyper's going to start to put some real pressure on the site by opening up these top downs. But as you guys can see from the silhouettes, there's not really going to be a whole lot present from that. They can see that it's a hallway setup now from the drone. They've just snuck in behind Hot, and he's immediately going to be taken out as well. Another kill comes out for DZ, but Rampy was able to trade on the Panba, so it's not completely gone just yet. Down to a 4 versus 2, however. Things are certainly looking good for DZ, as they nearly have full right to swing into the site here. We can see Fultz going for a bit of a top rotate. He might actually be able to catch this player top white stairs, and there we go. That's going to be Hyper going down. Tries to get a second one, but not able to successfully leverage it that quickly. Eclipse, though, cuts the head off of Skies and leaves Fultz all on his lonesome. He sneaks down, trying to hide in the grass, but it's not going to work out. He's sniped out just as he tries to throw in the Nitro for some impact, and DZ yield themselves a second round on the attacking side.
So much respect from DarkZero inside of that round. Did not want to try and give up any initial frags. SSG eventually just go ghost hunting, trying to find DarkZero and see where they potentially are around the map. They lose a person, then DZ re-drones, figures out where most of the SSG, you know, ensemble is, and then takes out all of those members. Eventually we get down to the last few saving spots for SSG that could possibly come through, and just nothing to come of it, you know. Have to try and rotate back in for Skies, but with no yokai drones or anything, he just has to try and take the heads-up gunfight. DarkZero have the positioning there. It was just very well fought from DZ. SSG constantly trying to hold on to map control and playing the positions that they did actually ended up playing into DarkZero's favor because of the way that they played the map there. So it was very, very well done from them.
DZ ahead now, but but only by a slight margin, and there's a good opportunity for SSG to bounce it back. Since they won 1 out of 3 of their initial holds, they can now return to that 1 and potentially tie the game up at 2-2. But that will mean, of course, that we need to see an immediate rebound for them on either their upstairs or first floor hold. Otherwise, it's going to be DarkZero taking control of the half, more than likely with a 4-2 scoreline. Let's see, though, how DarkZero try to clear out this basement for the second time. We've got a large amount of that roaming presence upstairs again for SSG.
I'm a big fan of the setup from Spacestation. They're not only bringing in the Jaeger here, but they're also bringing in Goyo to be able to assist with some of the slowing that they're trying to have up against DarkZero for this type of an execution. Past that, they also have Malusi with Smoke as well, so Skies is going to work super well into this lineup with Warden. He's going to be able to see through all of that utility and hold down that position inside of Elbow that we all know and love so well. It's an extremely important piece to the overarching defensive setup downstairs, so that's always going to be high priority for the offense to try and clear out. All of this utility from SSG is going to help Skies in holding that down.
Things looking good here so far for DarkZero. Once again, just business as usual inside of the first minute or so. This is not a hyperactive team when it comes to clearing out defensive setups, so we're not really going to expect any fighting to be taking place inside of this first minute or two. Instead, we need to see them gather up the slow trickle of intel here, try to catch members of the team as they would attempt to maybe play out near the staircase or other areas of the map. A few soft breaches to be made as well. And then we can start looking at how they're going to potentially breach themselves into the downstairs portion of this map. You can see as well a better idea of how hot and cold, and the rest of SSG have kind of set up the site with those Goyo canisters being placed throughout the basement. And also DarkZero starting to open up the hatchwork a little bit more for themselves here as they try to prevent the rotates up the stairs here with the air jabs being kind of dumped by Canadian now onto the rest of the setup.
Another interesting wrinkle here, Pambazoo doesn't have frag grenades. He actually has stuns. So there's going to be 9 stuns here and 2 frags for DarkZero. Brought some claymores into play, and no, that's not 2 people with claymores, that's 1. Hyper has 2 claymores, as everybody that does have claymores now actually has 2 when they bring them, so just something to keep in the back of your mind. But we're mostly focused on these stuns here because Sky's now switching positions from the earlier Laundry position into Elbow. This is going to work so handedly for him, as he'll be able to look through all of those stuns and not be affected by them at all.
Continue to wait and see how Bosco tries to leverage his own position from the pillar area here.
Speaking of pillar.
The swing comes in, yup. Panba able to insert himself through construction. SSG don't immediately notice it. No, Panba with a snap on Marampi as well. Bosco, despite the low HP, is still going to pick one up, but Hyper's just too clean. 2 more coming in from him for DZ, and now the rest of Spacestation just has to bow down. It's all on Skies. He's got the smart glasses to be able to mitigate the flash potential there and pick up his first trade, but there's a lot more to be eliminated. However, look at that damage going on to Eclipse from the canister. Skies is not done fighting just yet. He's put himself in a box. This is very realistic for him to clutch it out, especially with the time remaining here. DarkZero going to try to group themselves up, push this together as a team so they can overwhelm him with just raw numbers. And so far, they're on par to accomplish that. Tries to bring out utility, but it's not going to work. And the next fight does not go his way. DZ succeed yet again, and now make up for their lost attack on basement from earlier.
This is an offensive onslaught right now from DarkZero. They're clinical with this. It's very calculated on the way that they're clearing.
A little bit they're going to be able to carry forward, but keep in mind, DarkZero is going to switch up their playstyle too once we get over to the defensive side. So this could be risky here now for SSG to take the pause so late. However, it allows them to tie it up and get themselves back on an even footing, and they have confidence in their attacking side. Everything should be A-okay for this team. But right now, things are looking bleak for the Space Station side of things.
Yeah, that's kind of the other side of that sword, isn't it? When you take that tech time out, the other team not only has time to speak, but they also have time to talk to their coach as well. So Mint having a hand in these rounds going forward from DZ. SSG now have to have an answer, and it all starts here with this top floor defense, and they're extending this out. I think if I know anything about Lycan, he said, yeah, we need to take the kitty gloves off. There's nothing that we have to put in for a stop here. We have to get to this major. At least die trying, right? Like, don't try and be like, oh, we held a couple of things on Oregon, and that's why we didn't make it to Charlotte. Pull out every strategy that you have in that hat and see if you can get one over on DZ, because then you're taking a pretty nice flight to North Carolina.
There's obviously a fine line these teams will want to toe with regard to that too. They don't probably want to reveal that much.
Oh, cheeky Skies, so cheeky.
Very nice position there. We'll see how he plays that out. But yeah, considering these teams have probably already started preparation for the major, there may be like new things in their pockets that they have to like decide in this matchup if they want to bring it out or not, because obviously they don't make it to the major. All that preparation is pointless for the next few months. But obviously if they do, they can use it. But if they bring it out here, they're also going to be potentially revealing stuff. So it's a very tight battle they have to kind of dance. And this is for both teams in reality. Here's keep in mind, you can see that number 4, number 5, DarkZero. Okay, is Waltz nearly gets himself a fighting garage, but the finish score with DarkZero nearly locked in for the major. But if we see SSG take the victory today, they can steal that spot. Got themselves off to a good start on this round here, being able to find out Canadian and knock out the Jackal too. So it'll be harder to track these remaining members of SSG out that are still hiding across the map, as you can see for Rampy, for instance, inside of Meeting Room.
What a game to watch. These titans of Siege for North America going up against each other and firing back and forth. Finally, SSG hitting the mark in their opener and taking down Canadian. The Jackal no longer in play, and now DarkZero having to do a lot more heavy lifting in the info department. The frag grenades both go off underneath. The depth charge will not land, though. Not any damage onto Spacestation, as they're looking strong on this top floor.
Halfway through the round, however, so still a good amount of time for DarkZero to spend exploring the map, clearing out any extended play, and get themselves proper access to the inside. Last volley of nades.
He's ahead of him.
Yeah, starting to come out here from NJR. Final one deployed, so 0 impact with the entirety of the nade kit now used up for DZ. And as Stokes mentioned, Rampy now in this power position at the end of the kitchen hallway can cause some serious havoc against DZ if they're either not aware of his position or do not have appropriate flank watch to counter this push that he's now making his way towards.
This is super problematic, and that's why you see DZ trying to set up around the big window, because they have to find a place to execute. But with Rampy on the flank, they also have to be worried about this. Hyper potentially dead here in moments, and he will be. DarkZero, the round slipping away, but any of these angles, they're not working out right now. They can't get a kill, as Skies will take down Pambazoo. It's starting to look like SSG has signs of life. It'll be the attic window next for Skies. He'll prone and try and hold on to that. What can DarkZero potentially do? They don't have any frag grenades. They do have some stuns, but they have a dead NJR, and Eclipse to falter. SSG bounce back off of Lycan's words.
The definitive statement, too, coming in there. A flawless round from SSG. DarkZero suddenly flatlining in their capability to accomplish any serious amount of map control, even close to the site, let alone pick up some kills for themselves there. So now time to see if SSG can keep that consistent. They are going to head back down to the basement, try this out one more time, as DarkZero was the one who had just fielded a pretty hard countered SSG starting defense for this site on the very first round of the map. What's DZ going to do now to make up for it? Are we going to see them speed up? Are they going to try to play things even more tactically? Maybe try to bait out a few members of SSG? Time will tell, of course, as we're heading into the round now.
It feels like DarkZero really needs to challenge for a lot of these hot spots around the map that are pretty critical. Like inside of that last round, for instance, Rampy was able to bottleneck DZ because he got over to Big Tower before anybody tried to get control of that yet again after Skies left. So he's made it to where they can't effectively attack Attic anymore unless they want to take the gunfight with him. So now they try and fall back, push White, and take Big Window, but none of that works either, as that's what SSG's initial strategy was set up to do. It was set up to try and force them over into that direction because they're holding on to Master, they're also holding on to Armory, so there's really only two ways you could potentially go there, John, and if we force you down to one, it's, well, pretty telestrated on where you'd potentially peek me from. So very well done from SSG inside of that round, but they still have to get one over on DarkZero to tie things up here and give themselves a potential to shut things down on the offensive side.
All right, well, the round truly begins now, and DZ once again putting a light touch onto the small tower clear. Looks like they just want to have Panba along with Hyper work together to knock that out and make sure that SSG are not hiding anything on the top side of that. Bit of a split clear aside from that, as you can see one player hovering around the big tower, Canadian with control over that, and a few more still looking for an insertion point towards the front lobby. But as you guys can see, there is so much going on in the defensive setup from SSG right now. DarkZero truly have their work cut out for them. You've got Houghton on the long room upstairs inside of Billiards, Fultz holding security, I believe Skies and potentially Bosco as well supporting that position. So the site itself is actually very weak right now, but DarkZero will have to pay respect to these extensions if they want to be able to get access to it at a later point.
Now this is where things get really, really scary when you're playing up against a team like DarkZero, because if Canadian recognizes this could be the quickest shift to the basement, and it actually might be.
And I think they're hearing it downstairs.
As well as the Jackal down low. Skies is going to win out the initial one. Rampy gets one as well. NJR's all by himself. Pambazoo will pick up one, but this is a safe spot now for Spacestation. Skies has found safe harbor. He'll sit in behind the bomb chassis. He has some crosses from the remainder of SSG, but we still have Hot and Cold on Rome as well. There's so many missing pieces right now that DarkZero don't know about, and this is the potential to get the tie.
This is the huge issue with trying to kind of ignore the extended game that SSG has played into. If you don't hit those first entries off rip, you are basically putting yourself directly in the middle of a sandwich with the outsides being made of your opponents here. DarkZero DarkZero have no way to move forward. They have no way to move back. They are simply stuck, and they have a minute and 15 seconds to try and find a way out of this with a player disadvantage. So they, in theory, really shouldn't even be peeking just to directly take fights at this point either, as it's too big of a risk for them. But obviously, they don't have a choice for the reasons I just stated previously.
Now you have some opponents, but the real opponent's the clock. Now Hot and Cold's been droned out, and he's getting pinched as well. Pambazoo with the top hold, and he'll take down Hot, and they found the equalizer, and now they have a chance to actually get into the site. They more than likely still know where Skies is as well, as he earlier threw a Goom Mine into the door frame, so they'll have some telestration off of that, but DarkZero are looking to shift things up. Eclipse will be working his way into meeting, but he's going to double back as it looks like the calls for construction instead, and with very minimal time, they have to get in here very quickly. And JR still has 2 frag grenades and plenty of stuns to be able to bait out all of this utility, but Bosco now calling the cross. Frag grenade out. He's dead. DarkZero. Do they actually get this round? Skies, that's a big kill there. You can't take that swing. There's not enough time. Rampy in the 1v3 now. Everyone's just taking their gunfights, John. Space Station, you gotta slow it down. DarkZero will take this half 4-2.
And ultimately they end up on that very same scoreline we kind of predicted that this would be trending towards here, as they have a nice rebound on these basement attacks, both going into their pocket. And aside from that, SSG, the pause only yielding them that one singular round. Now we have to hope that they were given some inspiration for their attacking side too, because DZ is only 3 rounds away from shutting down this map and now locking in their spot for the major, taking away SSG's capability to steal it from them.
If Space Station lose this game, that's going to be one of the rounds that we call back to on the desk for sure, because Space Station had such an opportunity to take that away from DarkZero, but they were so flat-footed in the way that they showed themselves to DZ. So many isolated gunfights. Also, Bosco with the misplay inside of Elbow, just locking himself in there with the frag and hoping somebody's going to potentially push the angle. There were so many misplays there for Space Station Gaming, and DarkZero able to capitalize on literally every single one of them. So now DZ with the lead, and also the defensive end now, is they're going to start things off in the basement.
So, usual starting point, like we said, DarkZero and SSG are, in my opinion, 2 very similar teams. They were both led at one point, for anybody who doesn't know the story at this point, by Canadian as well. So,
really?
Yeah, you know, it's a real big,
never a guess.
Real jaw dropper there. But so there's still a lot of that kind of Canadian style, I think, existing on SSG, even though it obviously has been some time since he led this team. I think a little over a year now, I believe, if memory serves me correctly about the timing of it all. So once again, he's been off this roster for a while, but you can still see some echoes of it, even with Hot and Cold and a few of the other members taking over the leadership for this team. But still, looking to once again take away that major spot. Might be struggling to do that, though, due to DarkZero's current strength in this situation. But we have SSG going for the slow clear at the moment, both Houghton as well as Fultz already committed deep. One trying to go for cafeteria control and flush out the security player. The other one, of course, trying to deal with the upstairs flush. And it's looking like both are going pretty much along schedule right now here, as DZ continue to lose more and more positioning, but they're not going to cry too much about that. This is all part of the plan for them, too, to slowly fall back and eventually just line up towards a bunker here in the basement.
That was a great idea there from Canadian, because SSG just discovered that the entirety of the top floor was clear, and if they stuck around, Hot and Cold was going to be there in a jiffy, breaking up that flooring and making things overly complicated for them to get back to site. So fantastic time management from them, as now we have a minute and 48 seconds for Space Station to break up these hatches and begin setting up their execution. Shouldn't have too much action happening before like the minute mark here, but we could see SSG maybe get feisty around the stairwells, as especially with Pambazoo trying to get forward on his position. But as I just said, it's more than likely going to be a lot of droning and just trying to use this utility to get these hatches.
Halfway through the round now, and it's been very, very quiet. DarkZero not wanting to take a chance on any of these early gunfights. You've completely given up all of that positioning, so it's all just SSG setting up and continuing to drone things out now on their own basement hold. Twitch drones even moving through the equation here. We'll probably see this one try to sneak through the explosion and see if maybe they can knock out a few pieces of utility deeper in the site. Maybe even some that might be present from on top of the hatch, but not really much going to be noticeable here. These guys will eventually have to drop down into it. Doesn't look like he wants to get too adventurous, however, with this thing due to how useful it may be over the next few seconds. Indeed, a golden sick shot being snuck in, and Rampy sticking in a headshot against Panba. SSG gets the opening kill of the half, just 2 minutes and 15 seconds into the round here. And now they have the opener to potentially wedge their way into the site, too. They can afford to take a risk on just a blind entry if they wanted to truly go forward. Now they can do so doubly as they move forward with that nade kill, knocking out NJR. Eclipse will pick up the first exchange, and it's actually a 2-player hold on the construction wrap right now. This may be a little too much to push past. You can see there, too, the case has been fumbled slightly, so SSG need to go back and pick that up. This is still winnable for DarkZero, despite the issues that they are currently facing. Oh, however, that's a big find. Hyper getting knocked into his down state. They could have used that firepower to fend off the 4-player push that is surely going to be working its way, and 1 player still inside a freezer as well. Eclipse going to go for the late wrap, but there is Overwatch for it, and he's immediately caught, shut down by Skies. The plant should go off without a hitch, and as well, you can see another member of the assaulting team still up on top of that freezer hatch, so they make easy work of the last member of Spacestation shutting down that round.
Very similar round to how we saw DarkZero work the map, waiting for the defense to expose themselves and winning it time and time again. Although for DZ, it was done in more grandiose fashion. I don't exactly know why Pambazoo chose to go for the 50-50 on the stairs, but he more than likely thought that the Space Station member could have been distracted or something like that, but definitely did not work out for him. And then past that, SSG also killed yet another member of DarkZero. I think it was NJR, but that's besides the point. The real point is they get full construction door as well as pillar control. That's now all in the favor of Space Station Gaming. All they need is for somebody to potentially watch the back end and drop in later. That's Hot and Cold's job, and then everybody else can simply bear down on the site players and see what they can potentially get through the myriad of different angles that DZ have to worry about. And as you saw, they got picked to pieces. There's really nothing that you can do in a situation like that when there's so many people trying to gun for your position.
Right, so SSG quickly getting back into the swing of things. Already just 1 round behind the total for DarkZero. Not going to see much in terms of the repick department here. They seem pretty satisfied with the operator lineup they have brought to the table. A bit more nade potential and a bit more scouting potential too, with Rampy's pick over towards the Yana. Aside from that, though, things are going to look very similar to what we saw in the last round as they wanted. So they don't really need to change a whole lot here for DZ. We're going to see a Mira come in there for Hyper, so greater capability for these guys to potentially swing out and take those initial duels and also win them in their favor. But time will tell if that is actually going to be the case, as we saw in the previous round, SSG had that initiation advantage for sure.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of DarkZero, they actually have 2 players that are in the top 10 of the NAL currently by rating on their team. It's NJR and Hyper. NJR with a 1.10 and Hyper with a 1.14. And he's actually top 6. He's really, really gunning up there. And this game more than likely could push him even farther, as he's currently at 9 and 6. NJR not having the hottest game, but they're still in the lead. And he's definitely had a hand in quite a few of these success stories. But now for Space Station, they're going to begin clearing out the map. We're already about a minute in here, but with DarkZero set up downstairs being a lot more turtle than anything, the early engagements are not going to happen.
Hyper just denies one of the Twitch drones real quick as it tries to sneak its way into the basement. Obviously not going to be expecting much success with that, but we'll see if Skies can maybe sneak in for one later. The round overall kind of developing the same exact way as the previous round did, guys, so it's going to be a relative first 2 minutes of not a whole lot happening here, as obviously DarkZero has already given up any sort of extended position they wanted to play for and are just locked in the site now, waiting for SSG to take their first risk, take their first chance at getting access to it themselves, where they're going to be able to fight off against players like Pan, but NJR and the rest of this outskirts holding team here that is ready to face off against the challenge that SSG will surely bring over the next few seconds.
Yes, indeed. Have all the utility necessary to clear out myriad of these positions. Also, there's not going to be any smoke cover here from the defense. No Warden in play, so Skies could get away with a lot here, depending on how these smokes are utilized. A hot ping inside a freezer hallway, but that's not going to mean too much as of right now. Just awaiting the arrival of the tower stairs player. Open arms right now for DZ as they await the assault. Rampy with the initial shots. He hits a beautiful flick onto Pambazoo's. 0-2 in this position now. Is NJR up next? Luckily enough, there's a my disc there to prevent any throwables, and he'll be able to back off into stock.
Pretty sure it's Rampy with 2 entries from this position now as well. He's won it both times with the G3. So good stuff from him, and the drone works as perfect bait for Fultz to swing in as well. He's got the 2nd kill against NJR. Things are looking good for a repeated victory for SSG, which would surely force a rotation from DarkZero. Nitro's out, but it's way off mark for impacting players. Does open up a rotate.
God.
Eclipse, though, with a sniper shot, swings out like a race car to take the head off of Rampy, and succeeds in doing so. So SSG don't have things locked down just yet. What a juke from Hot and Cold, though. Ducks under the spray, keeps things even as he also loses another teammate. 5 seconds left, though. The members of SSG need to put this case down on the ground. Hotton started it, but in come the rotates to try and stop it. Are they going to be able to hold it off? And it will! Guys with the big double to shut it down, and SSG ties up the game.
This is what I wanted to see when I heard that on the final day here of the NAL, we were not only going to be competing for a major spot, but it was going to be Spacestation Gaming versus DarkZero. Electric moments like that. A 2K out of the Twitch, and we're tied up here. SSG starting to run it up on the offensive side, and it's looking so good, John. DarkZero have got to slow down this gameplay. They keep trying to contest these areas that SSG are able to grab onto, like big tower stairs and things like this. And they continually die inside of these engagements by overplaying their hand, trying to extend up the stairwell and things like that. SSG are going to take those 9 times out of 10, especially when you have somebody so strong in the frag department like Rampy.
We were talking about it earlier about the kind of sidewind stats for this map right now and how it's fairly attacker skewed. So we'll bring that up once again here, and how a lot of players may still be feeling the nature of this map, generally being leaning towards the defensive side and may feel extra confidence to take duels because of that, and that's not necessarily the way this game plays anymore.
It's 48% overall for the defensive win rate, so it's actually pretty close.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty close, which, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, especially just looking at the map, right? A lot of people find a lot of success on the downstairs side, but then when you start going upstairs and going to the kitchen sites and stuff like that, it gets a little bleak sometimes. So for both of these teams, they've definitely felt that heat as the offense is time and time again taking it to the house. But now for round 9, this is what separates these two. Who will get one over on the other? Gonna have an extended hold here for DarkZero with Eclipse downstairs and a bunker-esque setup inside of security. He's gonna have the hatch to drop off, but no other real utility to assist him, especially from himself. More than likely those frost traps along windows and other things across the map.
So once again, guys, fairly inactive opening to the round here. We're going to see a drone sneaking its way in, possibly to hunt out the position of Canadian or another member here. Either way, could be a good flank watch for SSG regardless. That could lead to the catching of Canadian at some further point, should the members of SSG lose on the initial fight they take. But we'll have to see if that'll end up coming to bears. Obviously, they got to deal with Eclipse's position first and foremost. He's got this bunker locked away inside of security. All 3 walls are reinforced. He does have the hatch, obviously, to escape, to make it back downstairs, and that's where the support from Canadian would come in. But keep in mind that drone that was roaming around there a few moments prior, good chance that it either got shot out by Canadian, which would be an obvious tell, or that the drone just spotted someone entirely, and there's the nade to correspond to that, as Canadian will fall back down the stairs to dodge that. Probably going to make a quick return, though, since it had fairly minimal impact against him.
A beautiful setup here from DZ. The time sink here from Space Station. They really don't know what to do with the situation. Rampy is holding the rotation. He's got some angles to worry about upstairs as well. And they also know that Canadian's more than likely in this area. This is something that we've seen him do time and time again every single time that they go for a setup like this on Oregon. So SSG more than likely know he's around that area, but they haven't chosen to do anything about it just yet, just because with Eclipse in tow, things could get pretty hairy, but they're going to be forced to do something soon enough. With a minute remaining, Space Station, they mostly have control on the bottom floor, but no walls open or anything. Just the big windows. They're going to hop inside, at least for Bosco's sake, and he's starting this plant. Pamazoo, he's more than likely got the stop, but no, he's actually been taken out by Fultz. The plant's not going to go off, though, as DarkZero's going to win so many gunfights here. SSG fight back. It's a 3 versus 3.
Eclipse with the most recent pickup puts DZ back in control, but for how long becomes the question, and there's the answer. Wrong read from Rampy as Eclipse is able to take him out instead, knocking him down and leaving only Fultz alive here. SSG had a booming start to this attacking half, but it's finally run its course, and DZ more than likely going to be able to pick up their own response. 20 seconds left, and a Toxic Babe has just blocked the way of Fultz here, so it's a nigh impossible play for him to make. You also have to consider Case is down on the ground. He has to clear 2 different floors. This is going to be so tough, and yeah, just does not work out. He's burned out by the smoke gas grenade, and that's finally DZ on the board.
It's an impossible feat there for Fultz, but for DarkZero, a dastardly setup, especially for Eclipse's sake, as he's going to get a triple kill inside of that round. And that's punishing to Spacestation because they knew what the setup looked like there, but they just weren't worried about any of the angles that could have potentially been coming from the security area, and that's how Eclipse gets most of those kills. Kills one hopping inside of the window, able to help with the planter, I also assume, and then past that, able to pick up that last frag that we saw from him. But for DarkZero, I mean, they're going to be happy about that overall. Spacestation wanted nothing to do with Canadian or anybody there. The only thing they dedicated to that, info and one frag grenade. But it ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back, or in this case, DZ. Or rather, SSG.
Oh god, I think I got the teams confused a game or two, or a round or two ago as well. So either way, DarkZero once again in charge of things here as they've taken that one-round lead for themselves. But again, still need to see them find a second site where they can find a platform to work off of here for the defensive halves. SSG had a kind of similar issue as they were really only winning those basement rounds, was finally able to piece one together towards the end of the half for themselves. But now it's DarkZero looking for that second site. They've gotten their first in the upstairs lock, but basement obviously did not pan out, so they have to go for a bit of a Hail Mary here in their meeting room play and hope that that nets them the second out of 3 rounds they need to close down this game.
Although it's Oregon, this game feels like it's actually been moving so very quickly. You know, all the way to round 10 already, and I don't want it to stop. I mean, whoever wins this, they're going to Charlotte, which is just going to be so very amazing. The only bad thing about this matchup is that somebody has to lose. Somebody can't go to North Carolina. Although DarkZero closer to actually punching that ticket, SSG still with a chance here as Rampy will hop into the T2 of Tower. They have NJR playing the lower area right now with an M590 Hyper bearing down on one of the door positions as well. And as you said, the timing eating away at him here, but luckily enough, it's not going to mean anything detrimental to DarkZero as of yet.
NJR just kind of on anti-drone duty right now. He's already taken out one. Should be able to get this one. There we go. He's waiting for the follow-up peek. Don't think you're going to get it, but hey, have a third drone because they just keep feeding them to you. DZ, 3 drones at least going down because of that. I don't even know if they've spotted Hyper's position either, so he could be a real nasty surprise if SSG want to try and peek in hopes that NJR is still holding the stairs position. Of course, you've got this upper position from Rampy too, so this is a real complex ball of fights that's building up to a pretty exciting fight, which is going to happen over the next few seconds here. Hyper is the first to take an engagement from behind the stage wall. Nade's going to go out against him. Another one getting ready to be chucked down, but not sure if they'll have the appropriate angle to make that work. And here we go, hot swinging in behind Fultz's pick up against Hyper. Beautifully cleared by SSG. They've got the lead now in a 5v3 and are looking to take it even further with a beautiful shot from Fultz to knock the head off Canadian.
Pamba with some big plays, but he's down and dusted. Space just point of who can potentially take a pretty cheeky flight over to the East Coast. And this right here is what separates the men from the boys. I mean, there's going to be so much mental stress going into these next 2 rounds. A singular decision could be the make or break for you for the entirety of a stage. And, well, it all comes down to this. No more tack timeouts, no more pauses, cross your fingers, knock on wood, whatever you do for that. Now for DarkZero, it's down to the gameplay to see if they can potentially get it over on Spacestation. They're back downstairs, and we'll have to see if Pambazoo is as frisky in this pillar position as he has been for the last 2 defenses.
So we will have to see if the fallback onto the basement yields success for DarkZero, or if SSG is going to be able to continue to field their own bit of success here. Just to correct myself from earlier, a 2-1 record so far on this half for SSG, as they've been able to negotiate a tie from that. But now how do they once again succeed through? Is it going to be the same bit of it as they just assault the basement? As they've already done 2 times in this half, by the way. Both rounds they won have been on this site, so they've got to be feeling good about that. But at the same time, DZ just coming off of a pause, just having some fresh intel coming back in on how exactly to play against this type of clear from SSG. Could be a bright future ahead for DZ.
Yeah, and that's one thing to notate here. DarkZero, they've reinforced all of these hatches, no longer playing the extended play that we'd seen some time ago. Instead, they're going to go for the turtle here and hope that the angles can potentially shut it down on this basement setup. We're going to have Pambazoo on a forward position once again here in Big Tower, and Rampy on the precipice of clearing this. So potentially an engagement going down yet again here. Walks towards the back stairs. Bosco's already droned out Pamba, and he's going to continue to keep that drone alive. They've cleared out that area, and Rampy is back in his power position.
very quiet here as SSG struggling to find the best way to move forward at this point, or rather just taking their time with the extra control they do have. They do want to make sure that they gather as much intel as possible, and that oftentimes will lead to a bit of delay in terms of getting access to this basement site. Just the way it rolls from time to time here is DarkZero not going to show any type of face away from that basement inside of these first 2 minutes here. They have no reason to. It's too big of a risk considering how one-sided the rounds have been in the favor of SSG that they've already played in this site.
When you know it, the last hatch opens at exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining on the clock. It's almost like these people are pretty good at the game, John, if you've been noticing them throughout most of this stage. So here for DZ now, back to very similar circumstances, although not down a member of the team as of the moment. One near boiler door here, it's going to be Pambazoo yet again, bouncing back and forth in between angles, hot and cold with the potential to bear down on this position, but this is more than likely going to be a full-on assault, especially given the position of Spacestation Gaming at the current moment. Going to have some of the potential smokes come out here as they'll start to get used up by Eclipse. It's his initial one, but all this utility awaiting the arrival of SSG from DarkZero, but SSG have some of their own as they'll force their way in off of these Candelas. Hyper, I don't believe that he knows that someone's dropped. It's going to be a team kill here as NJR actually takes down one. Foltz will get another. Hyper won't be able to win out the engagement against Foltz either. DarkZero finally get it down to a 1 versus 3 with Skies in this situation. Actually a 1 versus 2 since Pambazoo's been down. Doesn't know the exact position of either of these members at the current moment. He'll be able to get rid of that BP, but still has to deal with quite a few hard-to-reach angles. Gonna swing right into Eclipse. Pre-fires, but the F2 can't get it done up close. Eclipse will take it, and DarkZero reach map point first.
DZ shut it down in the second to last round of regulation here. It is a scrappy duel around that hatch drop, but DZ take the fight directly to the SSG members this time instead of trying to fall back on their deeper sight angles, which just was not working out for them on the previous 2 attempts. Taking it directly to the attackers, however, that's worked out much better and finally has allowed them to lock down a basement site, and even better, they can now return to the kids' dorms as that's just unlocked for play as well.
Big shout out to DarkZero and actually playing their hand that time around. Keeping things nice and slow, not trying to overdo it, forcing Spacestation into an execution, and then countering it from that moment on. The team play there worked out very handedly from them. I'm expecting more of that into this play because this right here, it's for all the marbles. DarkZero could end it right now in regulation, and although it's been a hard-fought game for SSG, there's definitely been some exploitable things that DarkZero have finally grasped a hold of.
Definitely the case. And like we already mentioned here, being able to return to the only other site they've locked down and quite fashionably in their own favor too has got to be scaring the members of SSG a little bit. We are going to see Sky switch over to the Nook, and on top of that, Houghton also going to bring in the Twitch here. So a few change-ups being made to maybe bolster this team's capability a little bit. He is going to be a bit weak on the hard breach side, but between Bosco and the secondary hard breach being brought by Skies should be more than enough in order to get access to the dorms here. It's more a question of can they work their way in, or will DarkZero once again be able to stop this pressure before it builds up to too much and allow for them to close down that 7th round.
Spacestation success could be on the shoulders of Skies here. 11-6 at the current moment, and currently the 4th highest rated player in the NAL at a 1.18, and it is maintaining the 2nd best KD spread at plus 23, 79 and 56 currently this stage. But this round right now could be the end of his stage, depending on how this will go. Canadian moves forward inside of construction, seemingly aware of what could potentially be happening here in moments. The first minute's already gone away. SSG, not too much work done on that east side. Instead, it's been a western assault as the drones have all been out, trying to clear Eclipse out of the position we'd seen him in the last time. But instead of Frost, he's now the mute that'll be able to keep these walls locked down.
Very, very tense round here as neither team seems to want to take the initiation first. Eclipse with good reason. He's got this very comfortable bunker to play into and potentially has teammates up on top which can look down into him. Not to mention, of course, that he has a retreat route through the hatch downstairs. Foltz is there for the immediate cutoff, though, should he try to take it. And a smart move potentially from our player upstairs. Foltz, does he see the feet? He does, but he might have noticed it a bit too late. No, he's all good. Foltz knocks out Eclipse, sends him down the hatch. That's the clearance confirmed, or at least part of it is done. Canadian still lurking around in the area, but they seem to have an idea idea that he's here.
Oh.
Volt's already having his crosshair trained on him, but doesn't even realize it yet. As Canadian will try to sneak over towards those laundry stairs, but look, it's being watched. Everyone from SSG has a full idea of what's being played by DZ from the basement right now.
Yeah, they've seen it time and time again. Every time that DarkZero has played Oregon, Canadian in this position, and the potential to be the round ender for DarkZero and push them towards the major in North Carolina. Spacestation adapting their angles for this top floor hold at the current moment. Have the opportunity here to start poking and prodding and see if they could honestly get rid of one of these DarkZero situations. Like Pambazoot here bearing down on white stairs for the moment. NJR though trying to play his utility at the back of dorms. Canadian looking for a potential rotate here. Not able to get the kill. Hot and cold, he takes so much damage, but now SSG, they have to force their way in.
23 seconds remaining now. Skies will get the first pickup for SSG, continuing to diminish the numbers for DarkZero, now down to a count of 3. They're also in through big window, but that's been countered out. 2 are down from Canadian and Panba. Skies returns, though, to keep the numbers in the favor of SSG. The plant goes down. Canadian in the area with a nitro in hand, but no! He's not going to move enough. Bosco with the case goes down. There's no time left for Skies. He's been knocked out, and it doesn't even matter because NJR is going crazy with the M590 and sending his team to Charlotte for the major.
A critical blunder out of Spacestation Gaming. It all comes down to the site players for DarkZero as they decimate Spacestation and